Hi everyone, Trishna here. So this video is part 2 of the videos that I'm doing around how to create that fertile emotional environment, how to create that energetic foundation that is just so important for manifesting your desires and allowing them to grow with ease and without anything impeding their progress. So if you haven't seen part 1, I highly recommend that you go ahead and watch that first because there's a lot more detail that I go in that video. There's a lot more that I talk about around how this whole healing process works and a lot of key things that you need to keep in mind that I'm not going to be covering in this video because I really don't want to make my videos too long and I also don't want to be very repetitive. So definitely make sure that you watch part 1 first before you watch part 2. So in part 1 of these healing videos, what we focused on there was we really focused on healing the external blocks that we have. So an external block is something that is it's an emotional block that we have that's created by some kind of external force. So maybe somebody has wronged us, or maybe there was some kind of situation that didn't really go as planned. And so that's an external force that has affected us and we were trying to release and heal around that. In this video, part 2, what we're going to be talking about the internal blocks. So that's the internal negative self-talk that we have, that's the self-doubts that we have about whether or not we can achieve anything. And so that's really what we're going to focus on in this video, is how to heal and release and soothe and relax our internal negative self-talk so that we don't hold ourselves back from success and manifesting the desires that we want. I do have some notes here that I will be referring to, just like in the first part of this video, because I have an example that I'm going to walk you through so that you can see how this whole healing process works. Now, like in the first video, the first thing that you need to do is you need to pick a topic. So what is on your mind? What do you feel like is holding you back? What is making you feel stuck? What really are you hanging on to that you want to work on and release? So the first step is you need to pick a topic that you want to release around. The next thing is you really need to sit down and you really need to focus and understand and really get very honest about how you feel around this topic. That is very key. If you haven't seen my second video in this series, which is called the #1 rule to manifesting anything, definitely watch that. I talk about the importance of being honest with yourself and how you feel around whatever it is that you want to release or whatever it is that you want to manifest. Once you have an idea of how you're feeling, you need to go get your notebook. I keep wanting to call it notepad. You want to go get your notebook and you want to go get a pen because you're going to write all of this down. So the first thing that you write down is you write down everything that you're feeling, why you're feeling it, and also any specifics that are related to those feelings. Once you have all of that laid out, then we start working on healing every one of those sentences. Now, if you are confused at this point, it's because you did not watch part 1. Make sure that you watch part 1 and all of this will make sense. And again, like I was saying before, I explain all of this and I also mention like key things that you need to keep in mind when you are doing your healing. All of those key things apply to this video, but I'm not going to repeat it because I am trying to keep everything short and trying not to be redundant, and I've already explained everything in detail in that video anyways. So let me just take a look at my notes because I think it's almost time for us to go through our example. So I also want to make sure that I did not leave anything out. Okay. So now at this point, everything has been the same as it was in the first part of this video. You find the topic, you write down all of your feelings, why you feel them, specifics around the situation, and then you pick out your sentences and you start to heal on them. The difference that happens here between the internal healing and the external healing is in the external healing, when we worked on the sentences, we started the process by being compassionate with ourselves and how we were feeling. Then we moved on to being compassionate towards the other person involved in the situation, or just being compassionate toward the situation itself, and then we proceeded from there. When we work on the internal healing, there is a level of compassion there to it, but we don't really do it in the same way. We don't want to reinforce our negative self-talk. We don't want to reinforce our self-doubt, so we don't. So instead what we do is we use facts, we use ideas, we use previous experiences, we use knowledge and data that we know to basically, well, my voice, been talking a lot, that we know to basically prove to ourselves that our thoughts and feelings are just that. They're just thoughts and feelings, and they're not the truth. Okay? Our self-doubt is not truth. It is only our thoughts and our feelings. And so that's why we want to kind of soothe all of those fears and all of those doubts with data, with logic in that sense, to show ourselves what we're thinking and feeling isn't actually accurate, it isn't actually true. It's just our perception of the world that we can change at any point in time. Okay, so let's take an example. I like examples because I feel like it really grounds a conversation. It takes something from theory into application, and you can kind of model yourselves and your healing practice off of that. So let's say with our example, you want to make a career change, but you don't believe that you could actually get the job, and you don't believe that if you did get the job that you would be any good at it. So here we have our topic. Our topic is you want to make a career change. So now that we know what our topic is, we sit down, we get honest about how we feel about it. We focus on what we feel, why we feel it, and specifics around it. And we list out as many specifics that come to mind, as many things that we're feeling, as many reasons why we don't think we're going to get the job or whatever the situation. We just list out as many, like I said in the other video, in these examples, I'm giving you like 2 sentences, 3 sentences of feelings, but for me in real life, like when I was doing this many, many years ago, I had like 10 or 12 sentences that I would end up writing down when I was writing down my feelings, and I would work through every single one, and I loved working through every single one because the whole point of these healings is that you walk out feeling better than you walked in. And that's why the healings feel amazing, and you will learn to enjoy this process because it's actually really fun. It's fun to feel good, and you always feel good when you walk out. So it just makes this whole thing awesome. I enjoy it. It's really fun. Okay, so we have our topic. We know what we're feeling, so now we're going to write it down. So when you write down your feelings, you might say something like, I would like to make a career change. I feel sad and I feel frustrated. I don't believe I will get this job because I don't have the experience. And I don't believe that if I did get the job, that I would do well in it because it's a new industry. I don't have the experience and I don't have the knowledge. And that really overwhelms me. So we have our topic, like I was saying, we have our feelings, and now we have the specifics, right? We say how we feel. I feel sad, I feel frustrated, I feel overwhelmed. Why do I feel that way? Because I don't think I'm going to get the job, and even if I did get the job, I don't think I'd be any good at it. And more specifically, it's because I don't have the experience, I don't have the knowledge, and I don't know this industry. So you write all of that down. Now we take each one of those sentences and we work through each one. In the last video, I only picked 1 sentence that we worked through. In this one, I picked 2. I want us to go through 2 examples so you can see even more how to use data and information and logic to basically shift your perception, because everything in our reality is about perception. Truth is very relative, and I talked about this in the Sagittarius video for September 2019, I think the general reading. So anyways, that's a different topic, I guess. But basically the whole point of this is to feel better and to shift your perception, because reality is malleable and it's very much based off of our perception, our beliefs, our feelings, the emotional environment, like I was saying, and our desired focus. Okay. So we have a topic, we have our feelings, we have our specifics. So yeah, then we take each one that we want to heal, that we want to soothe, that we want to release. And again, instead of focusing on starting with why we are justifying those feelings, we just skip over that part. We don't want to reinforce these beliefs. We want to go straight into the logic, the data, information, the past experiences that we can tie in to show us that, hey, the way that we're seeing reality might not actually be as accurate as we think that it is. So let's take the first sentence. The first sentence is, I feel sad and frustrated. I don't believe I will get this job because I don't have the experience. So now we need to counter this belief with past experiences and things that we already know. So we would say something like, so first of all, we think back to all the times when we started something new and we had no experience and we were successful in still getting the opportunity, because that's happened many times. So, maybe you've gotten a job before that you didn't have the experience for because you had the right network connection. That's happened to me before. I worked in a job that required 7 years of experience that I did not have. It was a 7 years of experience in a specific area that I did not have. I got the job anyways, and I did well in it. I ended up being one of the top performers in it. So, really, like I was saying, reality is all about perception, and your perception is what shapes it. So, that's one example. Maybe you had the right network connection and you were able to get the job that way, even though you didn't have the experience at that point in time. Maybe you were in the right place at the right time. I just had a friend who told me that he has been, looking for an opportunity to work with a startup, and he has really not been able to leave his home because he hasn't been making a lot of money. So he has to be very specific about when he takes an Uber. And the other day he just decided to go to a bar, and at that bar he ended up meeting some guy who is like a founder of a startup or a CEO of a startup, and that guy has made 40 million out of that startup and wants to hire my friend. So, these situations do happen. Like, there probably have been times when you were at the right place at the right time and some kind of opportunity manifested, or you made a lifelong friend or something like that. So think back to experiences like this. Think back to experiences that go against your current beliefs, things that you know happened, that it's like, yeah, this has happened before. Why am I doubting myself that this could happen again? Most of us, when we were fresh out of college, it was really hard to get a job, right? Most people, like most of the jobs, have this whole catch-22 situation of, you need to have this much experience to get the entry-level job, but then, like, how do you get that experience if every job needs the experience? So all of us have overcome that hurdle of finding that first job, and that was a time when you didn't have the experience, and yet you still got a job anyways. So think back to real events, real data in your life, or even around you. Like, if you don't have any of these experiences, you probably know somebody who got a job that they were not qualified for, and yet they still got it and they're still there. Or you've probably worked at a company where somebody got promoted and you're like, that was a bad choice because they don't have the people skills, they don't have the knowledge. Like, there's a lot of is it the Dilbert principle situation where there's a lot of managers that hit their peak because they weren't really qualified to be a manager in the first place, and then that's just kind of where they get stuck. So, lots of these situations happen all the time. So why are other people able to get jobs when they're not qualified, and you aren't able to get a job, that you want? You aren't able to make a career change. So, use that. If it can happen to them, why couldn't it happen to you and you would do a great job? So, yeah, basically you use this experience because it's like, if you could have gotten a job before without experience, you can get it again. If somebody can get a job that they're not qualified for, why can't that happen to you? So you're basically shifting your perception based off of things that you already know or have already observed in reality. Okay, so once you've kind of done that and you feel better about the situation, you can move on to the next one. So we're just going to move on to the next one here so that you can see another example. So now let's talk about the other part of your feelings. The other part says, I don't believe that if I did get the job, that I would do well in it because it's a new industry. I don't have the experience or the knowledge. So now you write that down and you're like, okay, how do I counter this? So when you first began in whatever industry you're in, you were brand new to it then too. You didn't have the experience, you didn't have the knowledge, you hadn't been a part of that industry, and yet you succeeded in it anyways. And at that point in time, when you first started, you had your doubts, just like you have your doubts now. And yet you were able to succeed and to perform. So you've already done this. And in fact, most of your life, you've been learning things. You've always had to try something new for the first time. And that's just the cycle of life. And, when we're younger, we experience a lot more of that. As kids, everything is new. When you're in school, you're being exposed by your parents to all of these different activities. So everything is new. You're always constantly being a beginner. After a while, you start picking what you're interested in. You start getting settled into your career, and new things become harder for you to learn. You lose that confidence in yourself to learn something because you haven't really learned anything new in a long time. Nobody's really pushing you outside of your comfort zone. Nobody's really encouraging you when you're not good as a beginner. As a kid, when you're a beginner, everybody's just like, oh, that's great, keep practicing. When you're an adult, sometimes people are like, that person's not good, even though it's your first time. Like, somehow we lose sight of that. But that's not, we're all beginners at some point, and this is just you being a beginner at something now. But you're going to learn everything you need to learn just like you learned it before. So it's like one thing for you to keep in mind. Yeah, and also, like, there are so many people making career changes all the time, people learning new things, people getting certifications, so maybe that's something that could help you too. It's like, you don't feel like you'd be good at the job, you don't feel like you would get the job because you don't have the experience. But you've always had to learn new things, you doubted yourself then just like you are now, and you still succeeded anyways, so you can succeed now. And if you don't have the experience, you know what, I can get a certification in this, and this would be so fun. Like, those are other things that you can use. Those are other pieces of logic, like, yeah, sure, I don't have the experience, but I could learn it if I got the certification, and that would make my resume look better, and that would help me get the job. And then when I got the job, I would learn so much so quickly because I would have the basis of the certification, and I know that I've always learned everything before, and so why wouldn't I be able to learn everything now? And my colleagues will want me to be successful because we're going to be a team, and so they're going to want to make sure that I'm up to their level so that we're all performing at this high functioning level and we're all being a wonderful team together. So these are the kinds of things that you can tell yourself to shift your perception to a new truth, because all of these things are still true. They're still true. They're true from your past experience. And you're just showing yourself this truth in comparison to the truth that you have that's really just a worry about something in the future that hasn't even happened yet. So that's essentially what all of this is about. So yeah, that's basically what I wanted to cover in this video. Basically, keep using data, keep using logic, keep using previous experiences, keep using ideas, keep using things that you observe in the world about how other people are succeeding in whatever it is that you want, and who maybe have less experience or less knowledge than you have, and yet they're still able to make it. Keep finding reasons to shift your perception in the direction that you want to. Yes, because yeah, your view of things is just a perception that you have chosen and not necessarily the truth or even reality. Sometimes we worry about things that are not actually real. So perception is everything, and it is a choice that you make at all points in time. So use this healing exercise to coax yourself out of your old version of how you think reality should operate to a new version of how reality should operate. So yeah, this basically wraps up this video. Like I said, I mentioned a lot of things that you should keep in mind while you're healing. I mentioned all those in part 1 of this video, so if you haven't seen that, seriously, go watch it. All those things apply in this case. And yeah, basically have fun catching and releasing your blocks. And this wraps up this video. And my next video is going to be about how to manifest your desires. So these past 2 videos have been about creating that emotional fertile environment, that energetic foundation that we've been talking about. The next video is going to be focused on how to plant the seeds of intentions in really, really powerful ways, so that when your environment is set and you plant the seed, all the momentum is there and all the power is there, and you can really call in everything that you want with, more ease and a lot more speed and much more effortlessly, and the process will be a lot more enjoyable. So we're going to cover how to manifest, things that you should be considering, how to break it down, all the elements that should be included in your manifestation intention setting process. So again, thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to hit the like button and the subscribe. If you have any questions, leave me a comment. If you know anybody who could use a boost in their life, please don't hesitate to share this video with them. And I will see you in my next video.